Train the muscles, not the joints. So welcome back to Natural Gallant Bodybuilding, and I just got a question from somebody in the comments down on YouTube there, in the YouTube comment section. It's nice to get questions rather than just hate. It's nice to get those once in a while. But anyway, somebody was asking me, how long does it take generally in order to look like you lift? So when you first start training, how long does it take? You know, so this is going to be different for everyone. I know I sound like a broken record when I say this, but some people have great genetics. Some guys look like they lift and they've never touched a weight in their life. So again, you have to take this into account, right? Everybody's going to be a little bit different here. But as a general rule, if you're watching your diet, because this is a thing a lot of people don't realize, like as I drink my ice cream frappuccino type thing right now, I'm, not watching my diet, but when you watch your diet and you're leaner, so say you're not gifted with a really fast metabolism, and this is another point I'm going to get to, but if you have not really a fast metabolism, but you just get a little bit leaner, you're going to look like you lift, or you're going to look in shape, because as soon as you lose a little bit of body fat, you automatically look like you have more dimensions and more proportions, which is why bodybuilders diet down for contests, because they realized a long time ago that a leaner physique looks much bigger, much more picturesque, right? Much more like a sculpture. So that begs the question, are you lean already or are you not? Because a leaner person, if they put on just a tiny bit of muscle, they look so much bigger than they did before, because everything that they have gets shown. Everything gets shown, right? So I've done videos on people trying to be lean. Mountain. So I'm not saying to go out there and get on a hardcore diet and look like you're anorexic or something like that, just so you look bigger. In the end, I think it's, especially in this natural bodybuilding game, it's the turtle that wins the race, right? You want to put on quality muscle mass and not get so obsessed on whether people see whether you look like you lift or not, or whether people are obsessed with what you're doing. It's about enjoying the process. Just focus on getting stronger and increasing that strength endurance and getting better with your lifts and not getting injured. And being driven by the experience of the moment and not your ego, which I have a lot of videos about. But as you do this, you're naturally going to look like you lift more so. So as a natural bodybuilder, sometimes this takes just a couple months to look like you're putting on a little bit of muscle if you're training hard and you're watching that diet. And for other people, it takes a year or two. Now for me, I was already a really lean kid when I started training. I was really lean. So when I started lifting weights and I put on a little bit of arm size, even though my chest was small, my back was small, my legs were small, but because my arms looked out of proportion, they were actually getting bigger at a faster rate, it already looked like I lifted something. Maybe I wasn't, the mountain or something like that from Game of Thrones or whatever, but when I was 15, 16 years old, after putting in about 6 months of training, it looked like I lifted because, hey, a small physique, you put on a little bit of muscle, and it automatically translates, especially if it's lean, it automatically translates and you're looking a little bit bigger. Now, if you compare me to an average bodybuilder, it looked like I never lifted a day in my life. So again, it's all about comparisons, right? So remember to compare yourself only to yourself. If you're comparing yourself to other people and stuff, you're going to be frustrated your entire career or your entire life of training, because you're always going to be looking at somebody else and say, oh, that person looks better than me and this person looks better. And even when one day you look better than that person, from a bodybuilding point of view, then you're going to look to somebody else and then you're going to be frustrated about that, right? So it's really your pattern of thinking that's the problem. It's the pattern of comparing. So if you just concentrate on putting on strength endurance, watching that diet and not putting on massive amounts of body fat, I mean, if you can grab this much body fat, it's probably time to watch that diet a little bit, maybe lower the carbs, or maybe choose the right type of glycemic index carb, like lower glycemic index carbs, and cut the fat down a bit, cut the sugar down, that kind of thing. Once you start doing this, you're naturally going to start to look like you lift. Now, some guys, they can bench press 300 pounds when they start to look like they lift. They're bench pressing 300 pounds. Another guy, it's like he's bench pressing 400 pounds or squatting 500. For each person, it's going to be different, but it's not going to be based on 1 rep maxes either, because 1 rep maxes don't necessarily hit the muscle quite the same as doing strength endurance type stuff. I remember when I was doing a lot of squats and lunges, and I was pretty proud of my leg development. And one guy asked me, he said, hey, do you ride mountain bikes or something? Are you a triathlete, or do you ride a lot of bikes? Because they're looking at my legs and thought it was from bike riding, because the truth is some of these cyclists, they do have pretty large legs from doing the endurance work along with it's basically constant tension endurance work in their training. So Don't forget to mix up those rep ranges. Don't forget to work on strength endurance as well as the strength. Don't just do pure strength and just hit a number for 1 rep max, because that's not going to help you in bodybuilding. If anything, it might detract from your bodybuilding goals, just because when people are doing 1 rep maxes all the time, they're basically trying to fast track their progress, but really they're risking injury, and a lot of times it doesn't actually build more muscle. A lot of times it just distracts you from building muscle. You end up straining joints, and you're really working the nervous system and that sort of thing. So that's why I really stay away from 1 rep maxes for most people. I'm not saying you can't do them once in a while. I was guilty of that in the past too, but in the end, get back to doing the work, doing the strength endurance work, and increasing your strength with the strength endurance work. If you're doing 200 pounds for 10, then get to 225 for 10, get to 255 for 10, but increase the amount of weight that you can use the same amount of reps with. So yeah, long story short, it could take you anywhere from a couple months of hard training and watching your diet to a few years before you start looking like you lift. And that's really the reality. It just depends on your genetics, depends on how serious you are about your training and how serious you are about your diet. So I hope this helps you out in your training. I hope this gives you a different kind of context. For me, it took about 3 or 4 months before it looked like I was training. And even then, it was only looking like I was training my arms, but I still had my girlfriend at the time saying, oh, you need to do more chest work, you know, that kind of shit. So it's like life's come full circle. Now I got a shoulder injury and people are saying, you need to do more chest work. And they're not even taking into account that the dislocating shoulders basically overpowered my chest. So anyway, what do, right? You can't please anybody. In the end, all you got to do is please yourself. Just like Tony Stark. Just you can always depend on yourself to please yourself. So thanks a lot for watching. If you need to get hold of me, just go to naturallandbodybuilding.com, and thanks to the Patreon supporters, and take care for now. Mountain.